Hello, I'm Sandra, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to draw this cute fox illustration in Procreate. I'm using the brush set Lovely Brushes, which I will link in the description box below, but feel free to use any brushes to follow along. For the most part, you'll want a brush for color blocking, shading, and adding texture. I'll also be linking the free color palette and drawing sketch in the description box, so go ahead and grab those if you'd like, and let's get started. Okay, so I've pulled up my sketch and I'm going to lower the opacity. If you don't have the sketch and just want to draw as we go, that's totally fine too. The first thing I want to do is draw the background layers. I'll add another layer and drag it below the sketch. I've outlined a circle for the background and I'm going to be using some texture fill brushes to create kind of a sketchy, messy, fun background. I'll grab this light blue and the grainy block brush, which produces a big fill with lots of grainy texture. Now I'm going to trace along this circle, and no need to get it perfectly in line. If you leave your pencil on the page as you draw the circle and hold it in place at the end where it meets, it will snap into a perfect circle or oval shape. And then you can select the options up here. It usually lets you choose the shape most similar to what you've drawn. Then I'll fill in the circle and apply more pressure to the brush to fill in more of those texture spots. Fill in as much or as little as you'd like. Now I'm going to create a layer above the background and tap it one time and clip it to my background layer. This is for my ground. I'll grab my dark blue, and this time I'll use my brush called Soft Charcoal Fill, and I'm going to color in this ground. And because we've used a clipping mask, everything stays nice and clean inside the main background circle. Next, we'll add a new layer for the fox body. I'm going to grab this dark orange and the fancy streaker brush. Now, I like this brush for fur because it gives a nice, messy textured edge instantly, but if you'd prefer a solid edge and outline, then I would use the smooth painter or butter brush, or any solid brush you like. Now I'm just outlining and giving it a few extra dashes in places where I'd like it to appear like the fur is loose. And we'll be adding white fur later to the chest, belly, tail, and face, so I'm not drawing in those areas completely, but you can. It'll just get covered up in a later step. Next, add a layer above the body for the face. I'll grab the lighter orange and continue using my fancy streaker, and I'm going to apply it in the same way. I'll use a smaller line weight here because we have those ears and cheeks that have fur that sticks out more. Next, add a layer above the body and face for the white fur. I'll continue using my same brush. I'm going to grab my white and I'm going to go in and add fur to the face. I'm kind of curving along and picking an angle that aligns with where the fur would be growing, and I'm brushing downwards in that direction. You don't have to be very neat about it. It's okay if a little orange is peeking through. And then I'll do the same for the chest, making sure to add some loose fur on the edges. And the belly. And my favorite part is adding the fur to the tail, because you can have a lot of fun and draw the wispy fur in different directions and kind of give it a little bit more movement. After that, let's add a layer above for the face details. I'll use black and the butter brush and draw little dots for the eyes and an oval shape for the nose. Then I'll use white and draw in some fur for the inside of the ears. You can draw dashes so it's more like fur, or you can draw triangle shapes, or just brush lightly to add a little bit of extra color. Now let's add some little spots of white speckles along the fox's forehead, back, and tail. Now I'm going to turn off the sketch layer. You might notice some spots you want to clean up or add more color to, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Moving on to some shading, add a layer above the body, tap one time to select clipping mask, and tap the overlay menu and select multiply. We'll grab our dark orange again, and this time we'll use the grainy shader. Feel free to use any shading brush you want, and I'm going to start shading from the left side of the fox's body, brushing lightly and adding just a little bit of dimension. I'm going to make sure I get the left sides of the legs, the chest, and the tail that's facing this left side. Now let's add some shadows to the face. Add a layer above the face, clip it, and select multiply. Grab the lighter orange, and I'll use the same shading brush and add the shadows onto the left side and on the ears. Now let's add some more white details to the legs and tail. I'll go ahead and add another layer above the body and above the shading. I'm going to clip this layer but leave the overlay normal. I'll use white and continue using this grainy shader, and I'm going to brush with the most pressure on the bottoms of the feet and lighter pressure as I move up the leg. And I want to make sure I'm pressing lightly so that I get that texture and a lot of that orange still peeking through. Now I'll move to the tail, and I'll use the same technique, brushing with pressure at the end and lift up and have lighter pressure as the brush stroke ends. So the effect I want here is that the white texture is blending into the white fur. So we have a subtle blend of where the orange fur meets the white fur, kind of like a bleed of color. Now let's add some texture to the background. So tap one time on the background circle layer to select it, and then tap the plus button to add another layer. It'll automatically clip it to the background. Select the overlay multiply. We'll grab the light blue, and I'm going to use the lovely crunch texture and fill in the background. Tap the plus button again to create another clipping mask above the texture. And this time I'm going to add some patterns to the background. Feel free to use whatever patterns or texture that you want, and you can even draw in some background leaves or plants. I'm going to use white and add in just a few of this stamp. You can stamp this brush down and select the stamp using this lasso tool up here. Flip it around and move it where you'd like. I'm also going to duplicate this layer by sliding it to the left and selecting duplicate and merge it together to make the pattern appear darker. Now let's add a shadow to the ground. We're going to select the ground clipping mask. We'll add a layer above it and clip it to our main background layer. Then we'll select multiply. I'll use the dark blue and I'm going to use the gritty shader brush, and I'll just brush in some spots on the ground. Then I'll focus creating a darker shadow right underneath the fox. Now I'll add one more clipping mask so everything stays in this main background circle. I'm going to draw some quick little leaves in the front using the crackly crayon. So I'm making quick lines and some teardrop shapes for the leaves. Alright, and we are all done. Here is this finished cute little fox illustration made in Procreate. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Once again, all the links are in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more tutorials. See you next time.